The gun itself, if I would just buy like a stock color, like just like let's say if it was just an all red, it'd be $1,600.
Oh,
just the gun itself.
Get excited.
Yeah, because mine is the red speckle edition, the little special anodes that they have on it. This is actually $1,800 retail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the gun itself. That's excluding the hopper and the tank.
Okay, the tank, but that's just.
This is $200.
That's $200.
$200 for just the tank.
And okay, so obviously you don't have to buy new tanks, right? You just
no. So yeah, you can rehydro them. Usually tanks have a 15-year lifespan.
Oh, snap!
Yeah, and every 5 years you have to get them rehydro, basically like certified that they're safe to use again.
Oh, snap!
Yeah.
They
so.
Can blow up on you?
Not anymore. If you dig on YouTube, you can. There is a video actually.
Holy snap!
So there's a video of a guy. During a game, this is old. This is like back in the day. I think this was still when 10 Man was around. There's a video on YouTube. I forgot what the name of it is. You can look it up though. A guy off the break, horn blows. He runs into his bunker. He dives. The tank explodes, like literally explodes off the gun, shoots back, hits his teammate behind him, and breaks his ankle.
Yeah, see, I think that's I didn't see anyone during the World Cup. Sorry, I wasn't really catching if anyone was caught wiping. I'm not sure if you saw it during this.
No, I didn't see any, but it's probably because they didn't just because they didn't throw a flag for it doesn't mean that nobody did.
Of course, yeah, of course. So so one of the things I was curious about as well is I think you were about to go into it. So you have these people who obviously they're trying to not get outscored, right? You're not trying to lose here, right? But you only get 3 matches, right? You only get 3 matches. If you lose 3 matches, then you're eliminated. Essentially, that's the way I was.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of just like every other sport with you have the group stage, right? You have the pro division just any division. You're separated into groups depending on how many teams are in the division. It's a group of 4, group of 5, or and so on. And yeah, you typically get 3 prelim matches. And depending on how you end up, how many points you get, or just it's basically goes off of wins and losses.
Right.
If you win all 3 of your prelim games, you're most likely moving on to the playoffs or to the next round. If you win 1 and you tie 1, lose, or if you win 1, you lose 2, win 2, lose 1. It kind of just goes like with every other sport. Like like with soccer right now with the World Cup going on, it's all based off of points.
Right.
You get 5 points if you win a game. If you tie a game, you get 1 point. If you lose a game, you obviously get no points. So yeah, it just works off of a point system in the group stages, and then once depending on how many teams there are, they'll either take like top 2 per bracket, top 3, top 2 plus 2 wild cards, and then they'll kind of depending on. Then they go off of seeding, like who has the best record, all the way down to who has the worst record of the teams that moved on, and then they'll seed you accordingly, and then they'll start the playoffs.
I think one of the things that could do really well for the because one of the things I was thinking earlier was like man, I'm trying to figure out like how do you get into this? And the only thing I didn't look close enough, but the only thing that made sense was the military. Like you had the Army and the Navy play against each other.
Yeah, so they had the what was it called? I think it was called the Commander's Cup or something like that. I forgot what they had a name for it.
You might turn the notifications off, Sarah. I'm not sure whose that is.
That was actually my phone.
Oh, okay. I'm about to
watch.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm tripping. I was like, yo, is that me? I was like,
someone's trying to break into my house. It's my camera going off.
Oh, snap! Hey, listen, guys, they got you. They know where you're at.
There we go.
Yeah, they're like,
But
it's real life out here in the street.
Yeah.
Hey, get the paintballs out.
But going back to like we said, yeah. So they had the cup with it was Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Army against each other. That was just kind of like a little fun thing that they did. It wasn't like that's not something that they do year.
Was that actually military members?
Yeah, it's actually active and former military members.
So that's a question I had because one of the things I'm thinking about, like, okay, how do you get high school students into this, or like maybe a college team, because there are college paintball teams. And I was curious. I was about to ask you about that because like one of the things I feel like was that this league could you really use is kind of like that ramp up like you get when it comes to every other sport, right? Like, we're going to get into soccer. You were talking about travel teams and you have like these other teams you're working with. Like, so you get to work and you get to grow within the as you get better and better, you get to go and grow in better teams and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
is there such a thing like with like I know you mentioned you and your team you get to practice. How does that work from you going from to getting to that pro level? Like what does that process look like?
I mean, for one, it's hard work. You got to practice. It's a lot different from soccer or any other regular sport where you can just go to the field and just run around, throw the ball, kick the ball or whatever. Where with like I said, with paintball, most fields are only open on the weekends, so you kind of have like Saturday and Sunday to really get your work in. Or if you have like a big backyard, where it's like open, you can practice back there if you have air and paint, or if you're lucky enough to be close with like a field owner, like someone who owns the field. He'll let you practice during the week when nobody's there, if you're lucky. But basically, the progression from moving from like beginner up to like pro is you playing tournaments. There is a ranking system in paintball. Just like with like college football, there's Division III, Division II, Division I teams. It's the same thing in paintball. There's you start out. There's Division 5, Division 4, 3, 2, semi-pro, and then pro. And there's a ranking system too. Everybody has, it's called pbleagues.com. Everyone has a player profile, and that keeps track of all the tournaments that you play and all the points that you accrue from those tournaments. And depending on how good or bad you do, that there's a point system that starts moving you up as you keep playing tournaments. So you'll start out at beginner or just nothing, and as you move up, you actually have to do well in tournaments, your points will move up, and it'll start your classification will go up.
So I see you repping. Is that your?
Yeah. So this is the store I work at, Matrix Gear.
Hey,
USA.
shout out to Matrix Gear.
We got Black Friday deals going on, Friday through Saturday. Come check them out.
Check them out. So one of the things I think is interesting is that you were there, right, at the World, right?
Yeah, our booth was literally like the pro field was right behind our booth.
And you also got to play a little bit. So how does that work? I don't know if you got to play an actual tournament per se, but
I played. So I mean, so World Cup, you have the pro there's more than just the pro division at World Cup. So you have the pro division, you have the semi-pro division, D2, D3, D4, D5, all the way down. So I played in Division 4 X-Ball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So X-Ball is that timed format. Okay. Where you play by the clock, not just how many points you score. So I did D4 X-Ball. And we played. We didn't do that well, unfortunately. But yeah, I got to play, and then and the way as far as like how do you play it, you just have to register. Okay. You have to whether whoever's team it is or whatever. Yeah, it's that same website, PB Leagues. You have to go on there, create your team, and then depending on every tournament in the damn world is basically on that website.
And how many? So the question was, most of the people I felt like were obviously from the States. Was there anyone out of country?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so I didn't
100%.
Who was the? I don't know if you know any pro teams that maybe you can reference, but I was wondering like who's the ones that, because a lot of them I just saw LA and Sacramento.
Yeah, so when it comes to the NXL Pro Division here in the States, yeah, most of the teams are from the States.
But this is the World, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, World Cup. Yeah. No, it's definitely World Cup. But it's called World Cup, but it's still part of that same league. Sure. They just call it World Cup. It's the culmination of the entire season. And yeah, regardless of, there are teams that come from out of the country. So specifically with like in the pro division, it's usually a 20-team division. Okay. Throughout the year. But yeah, you have the Russian Legion. They're a pro team. They're straight from Russia. Okay. You have Edmonton Impact. Okay. From Canada, obviously. Okay. A lot of those players, though, they're still going to be American. It's kind of, they're straight from here. Sure. The Russian Legion, all those dudes are straight Russian. They have a couple dudes who I think are from like Colombia, just because of like with the whole COVID thing going on. Sure. It's been hard for them to be able to travel overseas. But they've always been a super strong team in the pro division. You have the Latin Saints right now too, who Yeah, they had some shit going on this year. There was that's like a whole nother thing to get into. But they're the Latin Saints. They're from, I think originally the owner was from Mexico, but then they had like this whole little drama happen with money that they basically had to, like, a new owner had to step in, and I think the flag is like Guatemalan now. But there's that. And then at this event specifically, they added 4 teams from Europe. So you had the Toulouse Tauntauns, who are from France.
Yeah, I saw the Tauntauns.
Yeah,
and they were actually they were putting in some work too.
Yeah, so the Tauntauns are a long time former pro team.
Oh, okay.
They used to play. They've been around for for decades, playing here in the States, and obviously in Europe.
Right.
You had the Toulouse Tauntauns. You had the Lucky 15s, who are from England. You had I think it was Paris Venom. I think, or Carnage Camp Venom, something like that. But they're from Paris, and there was one other team I can't remember the name right now. But yeah, you have teams from around the world, and especially in like the divisionals, which is like semi-pro down. Like this year in semi-pro, we had the Manawatu Titans from New Zealand.
Whoa.
So yeah.
so then my question: is there a difference in play style based off the regions? You know how like in soccer, there's definitely like different ways that different regions will play versus others.
I think there is. Like if going back to like the Russians, they play very aggressive. They have a very aggressive play style, but it's aggressive, but it's also very, how can I say, it's very methodic. They have a very methodic play style of how they play. Because what's actually one thing cool about the Russians is they, like, playing for them, that this is their full-time job. Like, they're straight up, they're representing Russia, like, straight up. They have like their own training facility over there and everything, which not a lot of teams out here in the States have.
Right.
Like your own like they have an indoor training facility for when it's snowing that they train in, so they can still keep playing paintball year round.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Yo, that's
which
awesome.
Out here you don't have that.
Yeah.
Most of these pro teams, they're still practicing at the same fields that I'm practicing at. Like I'll go to Camp Pendleton down in Oceanside, and I'll see Aftermath there, Dynasty. That's the home field for the LA Ironmen. They're playing at the same fields that we're playing at.
Okay, so what do you think is the next step that needs to happen? You saw Dynasty take it.
Yeah.
What do you notice that their difference in play style and why they were able? Because the Russians get to play year round, but Dynasty doesn't get that opportunity. But they've been around for a while, I think.
Yeah, most of those guys like Ryan Greenspan, Alex Frazier, Yo Shrow, with the Oliver Lane coming back after a 6-year hiatus, considered literally the GOAT of paintball.
Sure.
These dudes are all in their 40s.
Right.
Like, they're all 39, 40 years old. Blake Yarber, who's one of the younger guys, he's still 35. Arturo Andrade is also, I think he's 36. So a lot of these guys, it just comes down to they just have so much experience. They've been playing for so long that it's just their experience is how they get by. And obviously with playing for 20 plus years, your skills are there. But as far as like what needs to happen next, I mean,
because you work at a shop, right? So
yeah.
You kind of you get to see kind of a different perspective. You get to see the new people trying to get started into this world.
Yeah, it's. I think the way to get into paintball is to be straightforward, is just to go out and play. Most literally everyone who started paintball probably started with like a rental gun, getting a rental from whatever field they went to.
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, I want to do this, and they buy their own gear. They start playing rec ball, recreational, and then the rec ball fields are right next to the speedball field. So at some point you look over and you're like, oh, that looks fun, because instead of playing these huge games of like 40 on 40, 30 on 30, you just have these small 5v5 games that are high intensity and high adrenaline.
Sure.
So there's always that migration over of players.
And they don't have comms, right? I noticed that they were shouting.
Yeah.
There's no comms. You don't get to really kind of.
No, you can't wear like a radio or anything.
Oh,
like
that'd be so cool if you did.
Yeah, it would be. But yeah, all of it. There's paintball is huge on communication. You have to be huge. Winning the game, I for me at least, winning the game itself is 80%. Communication is 80% of the game.
Because you don't know, but other people get to hear what you're doing. That's why I feel like, well, football, you kind of are doing the same thing, but you have your own lingo.
Well, that's the same thing with paintball. Every team has their own codes and call outs for different stuff. There's certain things that are identical in a way, but every team, has their own call outs for like the bunkers on the field. Every bunker on the field has a name. And that's the name of each one is going to be specific to whatever team you're playing on. Everyone has different calls, like I said, except for, a select few bunkers are probably going to be the same name just because that's just how they've been throughout time. Every team has their own call outs.
That's interesting. I feel like one of I can only imagine playing the game due to the fact that like you're not only trying to track what's going on in front of like who your target is, I guess, because I think you almost like you're not playing the man. You're kind of playing the zone and like certain targets and trying to make sure that the team plays this game.
Yeah.
But one of the things I found was like I said, I was telling you earlier, is like I wonder like if an average person wants to get into this, right? Like, and if they want to go and say, hey, look, this seems so cool. Because it really does. Like, you're watching it, and it seems like, man, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But the average person trying to get involved, right, will never get to really experience it out in, like, a curricular environment, right? You said there is college teams, but, like, I don't know if that's, like, more of, like, an actual college team.
No, yeah, these are like legitimate like universities that have these teams. There's not a lot, to be honest. It's not like the NCAA and they have
right.
Every university has a paintball team. There's select few, and most of them are going to be in areas that have a hot spot for paintball. California,
sure.
Texas is a huge hot spot for paintball
because they have the land.
Yeah, the land. It's just the population, and Florida is also another one that has, a big population for paintball. So, yeah, I mean, there's not, it's not like there's college paintball teams all over the country. Unfortunately, that would be great. I think it would be so cool if they did, because then you kind of have, you'd be able to, like, kind of create, like, the NCAA of paintball, where you have these college teams and you have these pro teams scouting these college players to eventually bring them up to play pro paintball. So I think that would actually be kind of cool. I think that would be a definite way, maybe a one way, or at least one idea of a way to grow the sport is maybe kind of have it to where there is like a feeder system.
And do you feel like it's stagnant, or do you feel like the sport is slowly but surely growing?
That's a difficult one to call, really. In terms of growing, I think the sport is growing. Maybe not, definitely not at the level that, all these other sports are going to grow at, just because it is a very niche sport. And unfortunately, to play this sport, you have to have the finances for it.
Yeah.
That's the sucky part about it. You have to have...
What is this? The cost of this? What does this gun cost?
So this one, retail, the... It'd be $1,600.
Oh,
just the gun itself.
Get excited.
Yeah, because mine is the red speckle edition, the little special anodes that they have on it. This is actually $1,800 retail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the gun itself. That's excluding the hopper and the tank.
Okay, the tank, but that's just.
This is $200.
That's $200.
$200 for just the tank.
And okay, so obviously you don't have to buy new tanks, right? You just
no. So yeah, you can rehydro them. Usually tanks have a 15-year lifespan.
Snap!
Yeah, and every 5 years you have to get them rehydro, basically like certified that they're safe to use again.
Oh, snap!
Yeah.
They can blow up on you?
Not anymore. If you dig on YouTube, you can. There is a video actually.
Holy snap!
So there's a video of a guy. During a game, this is old. This is like back in the day. I think this was still when 10 Man was around. There's a video on YouTube. I forgot what the name of it is. You can look it up though. A guy off the break, horn blows. He runs into his bunker. He dives. The tank explodes, like literally explodes off the gun, shoots back, hits his teammate behind him, and breaks his ankle. Because there's 4,500 psi of pressure in the tank, and it's outputting at about like 500 psi. So there's a lot of pressure in here. So before they didn't have the the safety stuff.
Do you have to refill that?
Yeah, just about. So the air stations you refill after just about every point, really.
Oh, okay. That's my question, right?
You come off after every point. The air stations are right there next to the pits during a tournament. You just refill it.
And that's where you refill, right here?
Yeah, right here, the fill nipple.
Oh, I got it.
And these little 2 silver pieces on the sides, these are the burst sticks. This is like the safety side of it, where if the tank overpressurizes, instead of it just blowing up, these are designed to blow and it'll essentially let the air out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, tank's $200 though. This regulator, just the regulator alone, is $180. So you're at, basically close to $400 just right here.
And the feeder, what makes this feeder special?
It's just the technology inside of it. So the Spire 4 uses like a sensor on the inside, just right in the nose piece of it, that as soon as you start firing the gun, it essentially senses the shooting, and that is what tells it to start feeding into the gun itself. This is another $200 to $250 right here. So all around, you're looking at about just right here alone, like $2,200.
And how important is the actual equipment though? Like how important is like your actual gear? Like your
like what I'm wearing?
Yes. Outside of goggles and dang, jeez, I thought you could just throw on some sweats.
I mean, realistically, you could. I mean, the gear, like the jersey and the pant itself, is really not important, because they don't give you any tactical advantage or stuff like that. The part I would say is important is your protective gear, like your knee pads and your elbow pads, so when you're diving or sliding or whatever, you're not wrecking your stuff, Mask. I mean, we always tell people, like at the store, especially when we have new people coming in. They're a lot of people they're on budgets, and they're trying to get into the sport. And, we try to help them out as best as we can. So because at the end of the day, the more people playing paintball, the more it's gonna grow.
Of course,
we always say grow the sport, because we want people to play, and we want people to feel included.
Right.
We don't, and that I think that's one way to grow the sport is. If you're in it already, don't, include other people. You have a lot of times you have these, when we're practicing on the field, you'll have those rec ballers come over because they want to get like their first game and try to play. And a lot of times you'll notice they're timid. They're kind of scared. They're kind of waiting, or they're just like sitting off on the sidelines, or even when they're playing, they're kind of just sitting there. They're hiding. They don't want to get shot and stuff like that. So we'll start, like telling them like, hey, like go for it, like, hey, come over here, especially when it's kids, right? Because kids they're the most scared ones.
Yeah, dude.
So they'll just sit there hiding, trying not to get hit. Yeah.
Paintballs per second. Y'all like,
and that's slow. It used to be we're at 10 now. It used to be we called uncapped semi, which is basically meant as fast as you can pull the trigger is as fast as as fast as the gun can shoot. So it used to be like people were shooting like 15 plus per second. Then we went from 15 to 12.5 during the PSP era, and now with NXL we're down to 10.2. But yeah, like it's growing.
Kids getting like, and again, I think I asked you earlier. I was like, so what hurts more, like a airsoft or like a paintball? You're like a paintball, and that's what. So. And I mean, these kids are getting just dinked. Oh no, Daddy, I don't want to do this. No, take me out.
Well, and that's kind of what we try to do. Like, when we have like these kids come into the store with their parents, stuff like that, and they watch the videos and they want to start playing, or they went one time, and sometimes some of them they haven't even played and they want to get gear, and we'll ask them like, have you ever played? And they'll be like, no. And they'll be like, go play first, because we actually had this happen a while back in our store. A dad and his son came in and he dropped like $5-6 grand on equipment for him and his kid. They went one time, the kid got shot, and he was like, I don't want to play ever again. So he spent like $5-6 grand on all this stuff, and he basically had to sell it all for a loss because they never went. So that's why whenever people come in, they want to buy all their gear and stuff like that. We're like, go play first. Don't just spend your money on the sport you've never played. At least try it.
Is there any similar sport to help prepare you? Like, I feel like for every sport there is kind of like this kind of introductory. Like you want to play baseball. All right, let's start with catch. Throw a ball at you, catch. Right? You know what I'm saying? You want to play tennis? Like, all right, let's go play the handball game.
Yeah.
Like you get a wall, you just throw a ball and bounce off. Like, there's some sense of just kind of growing into something, right?
Yeah. So with paintball, there wasn't really. Now there is. We have.
Like, let's take you to the gun range.
Can't shoot someone though.
It's like Let's just go and shoot people. All right, let's get it. All right, you want to play paintball? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, you can play Grand Theft Auto, maybe.
Hey!
That's one way. But so they came out recently with these things. They're called gel blasters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's basically like little Orbeez.
Oh.
So and the gun, they're like little toy guns. They look like Nerf guns, and they shoot the little Orbeez. You know, you have to put them in water to get them to where they're supposed to be. That's kind of what right now is like a good way to get kids into it.
Okay, now listen, look, if I was smart, right? Okay, I'm not. But I'm thinking like, okay, we could start a kid league. Get these Orbeez, there's just like every round damn, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that'd be kind of
cool. They actually did it like so like at events like at World Cup they had this little inflatable arena, like a little tiny baby one that they did, so for kids to go in and start playing and shooting at each other. So like I said, that's kind of the one way to get into it, to we've had kids come in before where they're too young to play yet, but we're like, why don't you get a joke? Like, we'll tell the parents, hey, if they can't play paintball yet, or if they're scared, why don't you get them a gel blaster first? They can play with that, and we've had them like, we'll go outside and we'll like shoot them in the back with it or something to see if they can handle it. Some of them will be cool with it, and so the parents will buy the gel blaster.
If you like, hey, come to the back. Let me show you, okay?
We had that one time. We had this guy. He's a baller. Like he plays a lot, and he was trying to get his nephew into, or his nephew saw and wanted to get into playing paintball.
Right.
So he took him to the store one day, and he was buying gear and stuff like that. And the nephew wanted to play, and he'd never played before. And the uncle was basically like, "Are you sure? Like, can you handle it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I asked, I kind of started it because I was like, "Have you ever been shot before?" And the kid was like, "No." And then the uncle was like, "Let me shoot you." So he got his gun.
Assume the position.
Yeah. So we went out. We went outside into the parking lot, and we just had the kid. We gave him a mask. Obviously, safety first. At the end of the day, 100% safety first. That's why even like with this, I still have a barrel cover on the gun.
Because you don't know if there's one in the chamber.
Yeah, I know there isn't and everything, but it's all about safety. Sure. And that's kind of why, just real quick, when I said, when we have people trying to buy their gear, we always tell people, get a good mask. If there's one thing you don't cheap out on, buy a good mask. Protect your fucking face. Because a paintball, you will lose an eye. You will literally lose an eye.
Sure.
If you get shot in the face. So that's one thing. But yeah, like I said, we gave that kid a mask. We took him outside to the parking lot. He took off his shirt. And we literally just had him like run from like one corner of the parking lot to like 20 feet, just run. And his uncle just blasted him as he ran across the fucking parking lot. And oh my God, it was great. He hit him like 5-6 times. The kid was like, I'm okay, just trying to hold his crying in.
That's lit. Hey, look. Hey, this is not for the weak. There's no other sport that's kind of like that. Obviously, you have the kind of, I know we were talking about this earlier, like kind of the rivalry between the airsoft and the paintball community. But looking at the paintball community, one thing I think is really interesting is that there's this like huge game that people play. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar, like this like game that's like on Nintendo. It's like this paint game, and you just like color like the oh man, Sarah, you know what I'm talking about? Splatoon, I think it is called. But you get to paint the ground and just try to. It's just a huge Nintendo game.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking. I don't remember what the name of it though, but I get what you're talking about.
And obviously that appeals to kids, and I feel like that's why so many young kids want to get into it. But it hurts when you get really shot.
It does. But I mean, there's plenty of kids playing the sport. We have kids who are like 13, 14, 15 years old playing the sport. Like we just had and the WCPPL, which is the West Coast Players Paintballing, literally the biggest league on the West Coast of the States. And D5, the team that took the series championship is called SQD the Kids. Oh, really? And most of them are literally like 15, 16, 17 years old, and they won the series. And you're talking about, you could be D5 and still be, there's like 30-year-old guys. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it has nothing to do with age. It's all about your ranking. But like I said, you had these kids playing and they won the series. So there's people from all age groups playing, up down to 13, 14 years old, up to I think in the pro league, San Antonio X Factor. I don't think he played Cup. I didn't really watch. And he hasn't been playing that much, but Alex, their owner, Alex Martinez, he's 55 years old, I think. Dang. So yeah, the age range is crazy, and I think that's why I like paintball so much, because the wide age gap of just the player pool. You can be super young and or super old, and you can go play.
That's what I think. That's a good thing. I think I was going to ask you. This kind of will lead us to the next chapter of things, right? Soccer and this, it feels, is definitely like your athleticism obviously plays a factor in this, but not so much. As long as you can point and shoot, and you have some sense of, like, again, the experience that comes with it. Yeah. Your experience tends to lean more than your athletic ability in this particular sport. Obviously, I feel like there's a balance to that. But
yeah, I mean, like, definitely, you, like I said, you still have to be athletic, no matter, that's a give, no matter what. But I think, the size of the field you play on, it definitely plays a factor, and I think that maybe the longevity.
Sure.
Where, like, soccer, football, you're running 100, you're running 100-yard field constantly, right? Whereas in paintball, it's a 150 by 120 foot field, and sometimes off the break, you're running maybe 30 feet, so you're not constantly running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you don't have to. You still have to be athletic, but it's like you said. There's a lot more than just being athletic that goes along with it.